Hey guys, it's me, cyoubx. On my first video back from my hiatus, I asked you to leave questions as comments. Today we're going to be talking about those. There's going to be kind of a lot of questions in this video. I'm going to try to group them by things that are relevant and close together. I just want to give a heads up before we start answering the questions that you should definitely stay until the end of this video. It's going to be worth your while. What you're watching right now while I'm answering these questions is just some random average that I had. I think there was some sub 11 average of 5 in there, and then I think the overall best average of 12 was like a low 11, something like that. All of the times in the description. But other than that, let's get to the questions. So the very first question was asked by Rowan Hendricks, and the question was, are you sponsored by the Cubicle? At the time of that question being asked, I was not, but I'm very excited and very happy to announce that I am indeed now sponsored by the Cubicle. It's going to be a really great partnership, more than just YouTube and video content. I've been talking with Phil quite extensively, and we already have a lot of projects planned that I think are going to impact the community in beneficial ways. And so I'm really excited for this partnership to take off, and I hope that you guys will all benefit from it and also enjoy the content that we end up creating together. Next, we have a bunch of questions from a bunch of people asking about grad school, what I studied, is it worth it? Did I like it? So I went to grad school at UC Berkeley. I'm technically still a student. I'll be graduating pretty soon. But yeah, I came to UC Berkeley, studied bioengineering for my PhD, and I honestly loved it. I think so far, I'm now 27 years old. Grad school has been the best 5 years of my life thus far. It's definitely changed me the most for any consecutive number of 4 or 5 years. I think this time period has been the most influential for me, developing as a person, as a professional, and sort of everything in between, getting new hobbies, socializing, all of that. It's been really great. And I'm really happy to have had this opportunity, and super appreciative for everyone who's been supporting me, throughout this entire journey, and that includes you guys. More specifically, HPS Tech asked if I liked UC Berkeley specifically, and if I'd recommend it to a transfer student. That's kind of a complicated question. As much as I loved grad school, and as much as I loved Berkeley as a research institute, I think if you're transferring as an undergrad, it can be complicated, and I'm not the best person to answer that because I didn't really take any undergraduate courses, or really, I wasn't really involved in the social life as an undergrad. But from what I've seen and from what I've heard, I think Berkeley can be a very stressful place because it's very highly competitive, especially as an undergrad. And if you're not someone who thrives under pressure, or who does really well independently, I think it can be quite difficult at times. But some people really like that kind of environment, and so they thrive. It really depends on the kind of person you are, and what your goals are and how you learn best. And then also a more specific question by cyoubx was, what am I studying and do I have a job? So I'm in the Department of Bioengineering, but the work that I do is actually more focused on neural engineering. So I'm interested in questions about the brain, how the brain adapts to different things, and I'm interested in neuroprosthetic devices and how the brain learns to control those devices over time. As far as the job, being a PhD student actually does pay, so we get what's called a stipend, which basically means that there's no tuition or anything, but you do research and then you get paid by your lab or by the department or by some government agency. It's sort of program specific, but in my case, I'm getting some funding from the National Science Foundation, and that's basically my job, is to do research. Other than that, I'm also trying to transition away from academia. I'm trying to find industry positions. So right now I'm actually working as a data science consultant, and I'm working with a couple clients, and it's been really fun, but being a consultant is not necessarily something I want to do long term, and so I am still looking for other positions. It's just really complicated right now because of the coronavirus, so hiring has been a little bit weird. Everything's just a lot slower than I expected, but it is what it is. And then I had a few questions asking about my hobbies other than cubing. So while I stopped cubing, I actually got into a lot of more physical activities. So I first got really into cycling, so I would do a lot of really long bike rides, or like century rides, which are like 100-kilometer, 100-mile rides. Other than that, I also played a lot of badminton, or badminton, however you want to say it. And I don't mean like, at a barbecue. I mean like, pretty competitively. and that was also really fun. And I still play that. I also got into bouldering. I'm not very good. I started bouldering, I think, like 6 months ago, so it's my newest hobby. I really like it, and it's like properly difficult, which I think is why I like it.
Nice.
And then someone also asked if I play video games. I used to play like a disgusting amount of Dota. I actually played on the UC Berkeley like Division 1 team one year, and that was kind of fun. But at this point, I don't really play that much anymore. I'll maybe play a couple games a week or something with friends. But it was a lot of time investment, and I kind of peaked. Like I wasn't really getting any better, and the community was rather toxic. So it was just a lot of factors where I just didn't really like it that much anymore. These days, I don't honestly play too many video games. I'll sometimes play Dota Underlords, which is an auto chess game. I think it's kind of stupid, to be honest. I play it because the games last like 10 minutes. So anyway, that's what I do. And then there's some questions that are more sort of about me as a cuber. Someone asked what made me start cubing. It was actually just the competitive nature of me back then. This was in middle school, which was a long time ago now. But my friend learned how to solve a cube, and I basically wanted to be better than him. So literally that night, I went to Target to buy my first Rubik's Cube, and I learned how to solve it. And ever since then, yeah, I mean, here we are. And then a couple people asked what my favorite events are, what I used to compete in. By far the event that I practice the most for, and the one that I care the most about, is 3x3 speed. I also really liked 4x4 and 5x5, and for a while those were sort of like my main events. I was never good at them, but they were just my favorite because, I don't know, there's something about edge pairing that I just really liked, and so I would practice that a fair amount, but I never really got very good at it. I think back then, like around 2012, 2013, there just weren't that many people who competed in those things, and so I think by default, I was top 100 in North America for, I think, 4x4 through 7x7. That's obviously not true anymore because now everyone's really fast, but yeah, I really liked 3x3 through 5x5. I didn't really care for any of the other events. I did compete in other things like Square One, and 2x2 and other things, but yeah, the only things that I really liked were 3x3 through 5x5, and I think that's still true today. And for the last set of questions, they're basically about things that have changed over time, especially because I've taken a break from cubing. And there are questions about my perspectives about the sport now and everything that goes along with it. So the Perfect Cuber asked, what, in my opinion, are the differences between cubes of 2015 and 2020? It's weird. It's not as different as I would have expected. In some ways, the cubes feel more premium now, and I think part of that is because there are actual magnets that are just built into the cube, and the mechanisms are more complicated and more polished, so that's all really cool. Performance-wise, though, cubes are really not that different, and actually, I've been using the GAN 356XS a lot. I think I've done like 1,500 solves on this thing now. It's really not that great. Like, objectively speaking, the corner cutting on this, it's like barely 45. Like, it's 45, with some effort sometimes. Sometimes it goes okay, but, other times it actually requires a bit of force. The reverse corner cutting isn't really any better than like 2012. And yeah, it's also like kind of squishy. Like I have some issues with last layer Alex, but at the same time, it does feel really good. Like, it feels premium. It has a great sound. It's like kind of crispy, and I don't know, there's a lot of things that I like about this cube, which is why I've used it so much, but objectively speaking, it's not that much better than like a Zanchi, which is kind of disappointing, but it is what it is. And it's true for other cubes too. I have to say that I'm a little bit new to the current best cubes in the world, but of the ones that I felt, there haven't been major improvements since I stopped cubing. But we'll see what happens in the next few years. And then someone also asked about what I feel about the current YouTube scene for cubing. So since I've come back, I've actually been just searching for a lot of different channels, seeing who makes what kind of videos and, what their styles are and stuff like that. And things are really different now compared to when I stopped in like 2017 or something, because it's fast people now who are making videos, and that's amazing. I think when I was making videos, there weren't really that many people who were fast speed cubers who were dedicating time to making speed cubing videos. I think like Chris Olsen was one of, very few, and, I guess like cyoubx, for example. But in general, it was a lot of people who were relatively slow, like me, someone who was like sub 12, sub 11, making videos and making reviews, and those are the people who are getting a lot of views. I'm really happy to see that these days it's people who are sub 10, sub 9, sub 8 who are making videos and making reviews, because those people offer a perspective that none of us could have offered in the past. And it's really important to get a lot of people of different speeds actually reviewing the same puzzle, so that whoever you are watching the video actually has someone to relate to. So I'm really, really happy to see that change. And then there's two more questions. cyoubx Wizard asked what brought me back to wanting to make YouTube videos related to cubing again, and if I have any goals for cubing now that I'm starting. Honestly, the majority of my cubing goals are very much YouTube oriented. When I left YouTube, there were a lot of videos that I wanted to make that I felt like I either didn't have time to make, or I was sort of pressured to make other types of videos, and so I just didn't ever get to it. And a lot of those videos are more tutorial based or more information based, which is actually what this channel was meant to be all the way in like 2009. That's why I created the channel, was to do tutorials. And so I kind of want to keep doing that. I want to make how-to videos. I want to talk about my experiences as a cuber, from going all the way back to when I started to now, how things have changed, my experience, and also just to give a different perspective on cubing as a whole. The other thing that I want to bring to this channel now that I'm about to graduate is actually more objective and engineering based content, because I think as someone who cares a lot about data and math and engineering, those are things that are often overlooked in the community. I think, especially in the YouTube scene, I think people like to refer to subjective metrics, which is fine, but there are also a lot of objective things that I think are important that need to be discussed, and I think that's something that I can really give to the community. And then finally, Hunter asked about the Maru CX3 and what the origin story of it is. It's actually a very, very typical engineering story. Basically, at the time when I first designed, I think this was like late 2011, there wasn't really any cube out there that I really liked. I think I was using a Zanchi back then, which is a good cube, and for the most part it was perfect, but sometimes if it popped, it would really explode and a lot of pieces would fly out. And so I wanted to make a mechanism that was basically interlocking, so something that was slightly more stable so that all the pieces were interconnected. And so I don't have a CX3 with me, but if you kind of take, for example, like a Tangyan. So on this cube, for example, which is very, very similar to the mechanism on a CX3, you can see that this wing on the edge piece sort of sits under the corner piece. And then on the side profile, and then similarly on a centerpiece, well, it's hard to see because it's black, but there's this ridge here, which basically also locks in the edge piece. And so that was sort of the idea of the CX3, is basically have the corner, edge, and center pieces all interlocking, so that hopefully it, to prevent pops. In practice, it was a little bit flawed because there were no torpedoes on that cube, and I think that's one thing that could have really benefited the mechanism, is just some sort of anti-popping mechanism other than the interlocking mechanism, but that just was never put in place. So thanks to everyone who submitted a question. It was a lot of fun doing this, and it's something I want to do semi-regularly. And the way to sort of give back to the community is actually to give away a cube. So actually what I'm going to do is give away a GAN 356XS, and all you have to do to enter the contest is just leave a question for the next Q&A in this video. And in the next video I'll pick a winner, and yeah, should be fun, pretty straightforward. So we'll do this semi-regularly. I don't know if I'll do a giveaway every video, that might be expensive, but at least, yeah, for the next one, for sure. Thanks for watching. Make sure to leave a question below, and yeah, hope you enjoy the giveaway. Thanks. Until next time, toodles.